And you know, I've talked about this hive mind that they are seeking to create through artificial intelligence being connected to the human body brain. But we already have hive minds. You've only got to look around. What they want is to fuse it into one global hive mind, but we have many, many sub-hive minds. For instance, the woke mentality is a hive mind, where they kind of all think the same way and react the same way. And religions are hive minds in the sense of they mutually believe the same thing and tend to react and respond in similar ways. And MAGA, the Trump-supporting hive mind, is definitely among them. Because what happens is when you have an infusion of consciousness into a situation, you start to critically think. You don't think in black and white, them good, them bad. You see the nuances. You see the shades of gray. It's what consciousness does. But when you have a hive mind that is just supporting one side, or one person even, then that nuance is gone because they can't do any wrong. And even if they do, often, you somehow excuse it. You find a way of explaining it away. And that's what we're seeing. Because when you look at what's happening in America and its impact on the wider world through these tariffs and stuff, you are looking at fascism unfolding before our eyes. This is why Trump wants to take on the courts and neuter them in the same way that Capitol Hill has been neutered, so the executive, i.e. him, can do what he bloody likes. There was this extraordinary event this week in the White House when El Salvador's Bukele said it's preposterous to suggest that he return Abrego Garcia to the United States. Now, Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia is a Salvadorian citizen, who's lived in Maryland for about 15 years. He was deported to El Salvador despite being granted protections by a U.S. immigration judge, and he is now in custody in Bukele's mega prison known as CCOT. Now, first of all, I don't know if Garcia is a nice bloke. He may not be. There are claims on both sides that he's absolutely innocent of anything, and then others say that he's not. So what you do in a civilized country is you put the evidence before a court in a public place, and you let the evidence be shown, revealed, and then we'll see. What you don't do, if you are not a banana republic, is take the guy off the street, despite the court ruling, and put him on a flight to this horror prison in El Salvador. That's what you don't do. But they did. And the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to facilitate his return. But during Bukele's Oval Office visit, Trump and his team said it was up to the Salvadorian government to decide whether to return him. And Bukele said, I ain't doing it. And so More than 200 migrants so far have been sent to the prison. Many have been sent there without due process. I mean, it's okay. If they're illegally in the country, okay, you do something about it. But you don't just stick them on a plane and throw them across the border into a horror prison. You give them due process. It's what makes you civilized. But instead, many have been sent there without due process, using an obscure wartime law called the Alien Enemies Act to deport large groups of Venezuelans and Salvadorians who the administration say are gang members. And if they are, they should be out of the country. But let's establish they are first. It's called being civilized. So the Secretary of State, Mark Rubio, and Trump's Homeland Security Advisor and White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, said that foreign policy was the domain of the president and not a judge.
And this whole deportation agenda, people, they're talking about criminals and illegal aliens. When there's a known criminal in the White House as president, he's involved in the worst of crimes. He's on the files. He's on that PDF files, people. For crying out loud. He's on them. And this man talking about upholding the law and enforcing the law, illegal immigrants. People, this is so absolutely crazy. But as David Icke say, it's all a part of their plan to get us in one thinking, one hive mind thinking. It's so true. It's not even questionable, people. This is all a plan, all an agenda. No conspiracy theories, just conspiracy facts now. It's facts, people. There's no doubt that this is all planned to get us thinking in one way. Hence the whole AI chip device they're planning for us, people. So put your seatbelts on. It's only getting crazier and crazier, people, by the day.
What the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way, to Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and children. But President Trump, his policy is foreign terrorists that are here illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on your response just a few days ago.
How long do we have to answer this question from you? Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over? And that's why nobody watches you anymore. You know, you have no credibility. Please, go ahead.
But of course, it's not about a judge dictating foreign policy. It's about a judge saying that what was done was illegal, and therefore you have to bring him back to give him due process. And this whole stuff about not having a judge dictate to Trump is actually about neutering the courts and the judiciary, as they have already neutered Capitol Hill, so that Trump basically rules as a monarch. He already is with these executive orders without pushback through the courts. He's dictating swish of the pen, law of the land to 350 million Americans. And what Trump supporters, I would suggest, need to grasp is that this is just the start. Where does this end, given it's only still weeks into the administration, the regime? It was said that Trump and Bukele were caught on a hot mic with Trump talking about next they'll be sending homegrown criminals to El Salvador. And the media were in the room, it would seem. Certainly there were some people in the room listening to this, so it wasn't really so much of a hot mic. And even more, Trump is not even trying to hide it, as we'll see in a second. This was the, quote, hot mic moment.
The people wanted to change everything, and they wanted. He demanded, they love you, they love what you do. You know, I'm not here to support it. I want them to do, homegrown criminals next. Yeah. I said, homegrown's are next. The homegrown's built. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's fair. All right. It's not big enough. No, yeah. Come on. So this is a much different office.
So I saw some in the MAGA media and Trump supporters saying, "Oh no. He didn't mean U.S. citizens when he said." Homegrown. He didn't mean he was going to send U.S. citizens to El Salvador's horror prison. No, didn't mean that at all. Yes, he did. And he was very happy to admit it.
You're open to deporting individuals that aren't foreign aliens, but are criminals to El Salvador. Does that include potentially U.S. citizens fully naturalized American?
If they're criminals and if they hit people with baseball bats over their head that happen to be 90 years old, and if they rape 87-year-old women in Coney Island, Brooklyn, yeah, that includes them. What do you think? There's a special category of person? They're as bad as anybody that comes in. We have bad ones too, and I'm all for it because we can do things with the president for less money and have great security. And we have a huge prison population. We have a huge number of prisons, and then we have the private prisons, and some are operated well, I guess, and some aren't. But he does a great job with that. We have others that we're negotiating with too. But no, if it's a homegrown criminal, I have no problem. Now, we're studying the laws right now. Pam is studying. If we can do that, that's good. And I'm talking about violent people. I'm talking about really bad people. Really bad people. Every bit as bad as the ones coming.
Indeed. Does it end? Where is it meant to go? And that question applies to this. Why Trump turned Roosevelt Reservation into a military zone at the southern border in a move that significantly alters the legal and operational landscape of the U.S. immigration enforcement. President Trump has authorized the U.S. Department of Defense to take jurisdiction over federal lands along the southern border, effectively transforming these areas into military-controlled zones. Okay, I get it. Oh, well, we've got to defend the borders. But turning that borderland into a military zone, where does it end? Where will it be done next? And another, where does it end? The Real ID Act, which was enacted by Boy George Bush when he was president in 2005, the guy who also oversaw the introduction of the Patriot Act after 9/11. The Real ID Act, it's been pushed back in terms of becoming law, and now Trump has said it will be next month, May the 7th. And top Trump agency reveals key reason why Real ID will be enforced. And again, what they're doing is they're using the migrant situation as an excuse to impose things that are going to apply to the whole bloody nation. It's an old technique. Focus attention, oh, we're doing it because of them. And then what you do is you make it apply to everybody. And although the Real ID deadline has been pushed back numerous times, the story says, the Department of Homeland Security says stopping illegal immigration is a major reason why it's holding firm to its current May 7th deadline. In a memo exclusively obtained by Fox News Digital, the department said that the Real ID will be enforced to prevent those in the country illegally from flying unless they're looking to self-deport on an international flight. So they don't need Real ID to get on a plane if they're leaving. So are they really that dangerous then? You consider them that dangerous when you're allowing them on a plane without this Real ID, as long as they're getting out of the country? While everyone else is subjected to it. And again, where does it end? The goal is for everything to be digital and for everyone to have a digital ID, which they will allow them to be constantly tracked whatever they do, wherever they go. And here's Tony Blair, who every time he speaks, the cult is speaking, who is calling for that very thing to happen in Britain.
Continue with business as usual, and change is inevitable. This is where technology, like digital ID, becomes critical. My institute's own analysis shows that introducing this in the UK would save at least $2 billion a year, and likely more, by reducing losses to fraud, improving tax collection, and better targeting of state support.
Whatever Tony Blair calls for, the cult wants to introduce. And it's a kind of strange thing, because Larry Ellison of Oracle, who was wheeled out by Trump, he's a big friend of Trump, 2 days into his administration, with Sam Altman of OpenAI, they announced an up to $500 billion investment in AI and AI infrastructure, because that's what this is all about, having AI control everything. And yet, he also funds Tony Blair, who you would think would be the opposite of Trump, because basically Blair's coming from the woke angle and the globalist angle. He's a classic globalist, which Trump's supposed to be against. But Ellison's a close mate of Trump, and he's funding Tony Blair's institute. Tony Blair's Policy Institute is bankrolled by American tech billionaire Larry Ellison, whose firm supplied software to the government when the ex-PM was in number 10 Downing Street. Tony Blair's Policy Institute is being bankrolled by American tech billionaire Larry Ellison, the foundation's accounts have revealed. Mr. Ellison, founder of the software firm Oracle, gave Tony Blair's institute £26 million in 2021, with plans for future donations of a further $38 million. So here we have Larry Ellison, who supports cameras everywhere, facial recognition cameras. He supports digital ID and all these other tech control methods, just like Tony Blair. He, with Tony Blair, was behind a scheme to increase and speed up rates in Africa. They've now come together with Ellison Funding to build a central database of records to monitor and combat a variety of diseases in Africa. And Blair said this is an immensely exciting and potentially groundbreaking initiative for recording information on all diseases in African nations. It just happens to be straight off the wish list of the global cult and its World Economic Forum. And what the left and the right need to grasp is that they're all coming from the same direction, pushing towards the same outcome. So you have a anti-globalist Trump, a mate of Ellison, and you have a pro-globalist Tony Blair being funded by Ellison. In the same way, you have Peter Thiel, globalist, on the steering committee of the globalist Bilderberg Group, who has funded the political career of the anti-globalist J.D. Vance, Trump's vice president. They're just the same network playing different parts to scam different belief systems and political views. It's a one-party state. No, it's a one-party world.
The hive mind is in full effect, people. Because this, for example, this Epstein scandal shows that it's really a hive mind they're developing. They don't want you to question it. As Trump said, why you keep asking about Epstein? Stop asking about this creep. That's it, people. They don't want your minds going to certain place. They just want to stay in one place. If a leader says this is the only truth. This is the only reality. Don't ask any question. Don't question anything. So the hive mind is in full effect. Religion, Christianity, all of them, Muslim, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, they're all a part of the hive mind. It's so clear, people. You cannot question these things. If you question, you're evil. You're evil. You're so evil. You're so evil. Don't question. Don't ask any question. And this is how they operate, people. This is how they operate. This is how governments work, religion work. It's all the same, people. No difference. So